Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked? You know, all set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. I believe that we have a blockbuster broadcast. Now, normally I don't say that. I don't think I've ever said it. But I really would encourage you to stay tuned for hour number 1 and hour number 2. Hour number 1, we're going to talk about stem cells with Stan Haley of Greenwood Health. Hour number 2, we're going to be talking about the violent, irreversible climate change. It is very, very serious. And so that is what's on the schedule for today. And I want to thank Blake for engineering the broadcast here at USA Prepares. Thank you so much, Blake. Stan Haley, welcome.
Good morning, Vincent. Welcome to you, too. How you doing?
Well, you know, let me just share something with you that I did not plan on talking about, but I'd like to share it with you. We got, you know, when you get those calls late at night or early in the morning, you just know that it's not good news, right? So we got one of those calls this morning, and Mrs. Finelli ran to the phone. And we have a neighbor, probably in his 40s, and he was involved in an accident, a vehicular accident. He was riding his motorcycle, we believe, to work, and he hit a deer, and he's a little banged up. And so we got that call to come to his assistance. Now, what does that have to do with health? What does that have to do with Stan Haley and Greenwood Health? Well, the point is, make sure that you have in your mind what you need to get through to the other side. Make sure that you have people who are willing to help you. Make sure that you can actually call somebody that will show up and help you. And that's what this broadcast is about, to let you know that things are happening. You absolutely, positively need to take care of your health. And so the next dot in this little discussion about the motorcycle accident, he's okay. He's okay. The state police are there. We were going with our truck and trailer and get some guys and a winch and pull the motorcycle out of the ditch. The rider was hurt, but it looks like he's going to be okay. But his mother just came back from the hospital, and she had brain surgery. So, you know, when mom is down, that means that it's all hands on deck taking care of mom. And then we have the son who just gets injured on a motorcycle, and it makes matters worse. So what I'm saying is you absolutely have to take care of your health, and you have to have a support system to help you through the rough patches. So I just wanted to share that with you, Stan Haley. Do you have any comments before we get into stem cells?
Yeah, basically, you know, everybody should look after their body. It's the only one they're going to get. It's real simple. You know, the body we inhabit is the only body we've got, and there are way too many people out there that don't look after it. And if you want to relate that to a motor car, you know, see how long your car works. If you don't do any work on it, you know, you don't change the oils, you don't change the filters, you don't service it. You've got to do exactly the same thing with the body. That makes sense?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that we really pay very close attention to here at the farm. Servicing the equipment. We have, you know, it's kind of like those vitamins, minerals, and supplements, right? Okay. We have them on hand for us, and we also have them on hand for our equipment. Okay? For example, one tube of grease, which you could get maybe for $1.19 when it's on sale, one tube of grease, if you don't grease your equipment, as a farmer must do, you can wear out that piece of equipment in the afternoon. Okay?
Yeah.
And the prevention is $1.19. $1.19. And the piece of equipment could be $5,000, $10,000.
It's the same with nutraceuticals. It's the same with giving the body the nutrition that it needs. Look, the human body is a wonderful, wonderful piece of equipment. It is self-repairing if it has the nutritional tools that it needs to actually do the repairs. Think of it as grease. Think of it as whatever you like. But if you don't look after it, you're going to pay for it big time, particularly once you get over the age of 50. Anyway, that's interesting.
That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying about the vitamins, minerals, and supplements. It's way more inexpensive to prevent and to give the body what it needs than to not do that. And what I was saying is $1.19 could trash a $10,000 piece of equipment in an afternoon, and not taking care of your body can trash it as well. So the plan is really simple. I mean, it's right in front of us. All you have to do is give the body what it needs, and it will fix a lot of it itself. Pretty neat machine. It really is.
Well, it's an incredibly neat machine.
Where are we?
Well, if you look at where we are today with the number of so-called degenerative diseases and whatever that we're dealing with, that quite frankly 200 years ago didn't exist, and there's a lot of reasons for it. Most of them are based around what we're calling food today, which is not actually food. We're exposed to so many toxic chemicals. We're exposed to so much junk in the food we eat that your grandparents and great-grandparents were not exposed to.
Yeah, my grandparents, were living through the first Great Depression, and they raised their own food. They converted their backyard into a garden, and wall to wall to wall. I mean, absolutely. There was a grapevine, and under the grapes, they had like a picnic table where they could eat outside. So even that area was productive. There was not 1 square inch of their backyard that was not dedicated to producing food. Not 1 square inch. That's what they did. Why? Because they had to. And I think what we need to do is we need to eat better and make sure that we have the supplements that are absent in the food that we eat. They're missing in the food. The ground has been depleted. And Stan Haley, I live on a farm, and all around me, I can see land that has been depleted, land that has been abused, land that has been used and used and used without being taken care of. It's unbelievable. And yet, that's the kind of land that we're growing food on. So we do need to eat better, grow our own food, and supplement. So what do you have on today's schedule for us?
Well, basically today I'm going to be talking a little bit about stem cells, or more specifically adult stem cells. How familiar are you with stem cells?
I'd love it if you would take us from the beginner's level through where you want to take us today. Please teach the class as if we don't know anything. I think that's where we need to be. Okay.
Basically, the simplest way to describe adult stem cells is to just tell everybody they're the master cells for the body. They have a unique ability to change into other cells. And understand, everybody is born with a lot of adult stem cells. There was a lot of publicity given to stem cells about 20 years ago when they first started playing around with what are known as embryonic stem cells, where they're actually trying to take stem cells that have been harvested from embryos and inject them into people, hoping that they would solve problems. I'm not going to spend any time on that particular subject at all, because the legal, moral, and religious issues around embryonic stem cells are going to take probably the next 20 years to sort out. But what they are doing a lot, and I do mean a lot of research now, is how to use your own stem cells to fix problems within your own body. And, you know, everybody should be aware of the fact that right now there's about 550 stem cell therapy clinics in this country, and there are many, many more overseas. What they are learning is that stem cells have wonderful, wonderful healing properties, particularly as we are aging. You know, if you just quite simply research stem cells on PubMed, you'll see tens upon tens upon tens of thousands of references to them. They're a very, very interesting organism within the body. And in simple English, right, when a stem cell is released from the bone marrow, that cell has the potential to either remain as a stem cell or to become another type of cell, a cell with a more specialized function, such as a muscle cell, a red blood cell, or a brain cell. So in simple English, if you need muscle cells to repair something, the stem cells will convert from a stem cell into a muscle cell, which then divides, redivides, and keeps going, and fixes the problem. That make sense?
Oh, it absolutely does. It certainly does. So we have to promote the production of these stem cells.
Yep, and there's a couple of ways of doing it. Stem cells are going to come down to two areas over the next 5 years or so. Stem cell therapy is going to continually be developed. There's an awful lot of research sciences working on how to extract your stem cells, how to split them off, how to re-inject them into areas of the body that need the attention. We're about to go to a commercial break.
Yeah, there's going to be, we have
I'll pick it up in a minute.
Yeah, 4 segments of USA Prepares in each hour. Stan Haley's with us, greenwoodhealth.net. We'll be right back. Stan Haley's with us. He's the CEO of greenwoodhealth.net. And there's a link to Stan Haley at usaprepares.com on the instructors tab. Just click on that, health and medicine, and you'll see his name. You can click on it, take you right to his website. So we're talking about stem cells, and we're talking about when a stem cell divides, each cell has the potential to stay as a stem cell, or it can become another type of cell, such as a brain cell, a blood cell, or a muscle cell. Stan, please continue.
Okay, I'm happy to. Basically, there's a couple of different ways of activating stem cells within the body. And where stem cells are important is quite simply this. The older you get, the less circulating adult stem cells you have within your system. And the best way to illustrate that is if everybody that's listening can go back and think about when they were 5, 6, or 7, you're out playing in the backyard or whatever, you fall over and you skin your knee, and, 3 days later, it's gone. It's totally healed. That's what happens as a child. Now, if you're 50, 60, or 70, and you do it now, how long is it going to take to heal? A week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? That's the difference between the amount of stem cells we had as a child and the amount that we've got now, because stem cells are very, very much age-dependent. In simple English, the older we get, the less we have circulating within our system. Now, we have still got plenty of stem cells. They're generally held primarily in bone marrow. They're also held in fat tissue. But there is no way of releasing them in the same numbers that we had when we were children. And that's why stem cell therapy is becoming very, very big business. It's actually given rise to a new term, which is called stem cell tourism. There are stem cell clinics around the world that are doing in excess of $1 billion worth of business a year using stem cells to fix many, many of the problems that we're dealing with. And these clinics are not cheap at all. The average cost is $30,000. Some procedures will actually go up to $100,000. Some are down at $8,000 or $9,000. So for the average person, that is not an option. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is this. There's been an awful lot of work done over the last 15 or 16 years that has now proven conclusively that you can actually have your body release its own stem cells using nutraceuticals and food. And that's a heck of a lot less expensive than paying somebody, $30,000 to extract some stem cells out of your bone marrow and then re-inject them into the different part of the body where they need to work. So it's a very, very simple concept. And, as they say, don't let the simplicity of this concept fool you. The benefits can be extremely powerful. There's nothing magical or mysterious about how stem cell nutrition works. It simply helps adult stem cells find, repair, or regenerate damaged tissues. It does it safely, it does it naturally, and it's in effect renewing your body day by day. That make sense?
It absolutely does make sense. And so I've got several questions. One question is, are there any limits to what the stem cells can repair?
Not that anybody's found yet.
Okay, so
that's the short answer. If you go and have a look at, PubMed has got a whole section on stem cells. They have identified 74 different conditions within the human body that they're capable of repairing.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm noticing, I've talked to some medical doctors and asked about, what's going on with all these people on oxygen? Are there more and more respiratory problems every day? Oh, yes. That's the answer I get. Oh, yes. So can stem cell therapy or generating releasing your own stem cells, can it help with respiratory problems? Let's talk about that when we come back for just a few seconds. Stan Hill is with us. GreenwoodHealth.net. Kyle in Montana, USA Prepares Instructors calling in. Welcome, Kyle.
Good morning. I've been interested in stem cells like this. This is really an interesting program. I'm sorry I missed the other one, but as you know, we kind of had a lot of trouble here lately. But I have two questions dealing with stem cells. I talked to a gentleman back east that runs a medical clinic. And anyway, he said he ordered stem cells from 3 different places here in the United States that would, supposedly send him stem cells to be able to use. Because what he was doing is he told them, he said, I'll be one of your biggest buyers if you can produce a viable stem cell. But he said in all 3 of the samples that he got for stem cells, they were all sterilized, and because of the sterilization process, there was not one viable stem cell in any of the 3 different samples that he got. And I was wondering if, because like I said, I've had surgery, knee replacement, and I much would rather had something injected in there, a stem cell that could regrow that cartilage. But anyway, so I'm curious, has there been further advancements on this stuff so that you can get sterilized viable stem cells? That's the first question. And the second question is, have they ever used these stem cells for, if they can become brain cells, then have they ever tried to associate these with dementia and or, Alzheimer's and all of that? Next question, okay? And then I'll listen here if it's okay.
Okay, Stan.
Okay. I'll answer the question a couple of ways. We do not sell stem cells, period. What we have put together is a nutritional supplement that assists the body in releasing its own stem cells. Craig, you need to understand your body has an awful lot of stem cells locked up in its bone marrow or locked up in its fat tissue. There are ways of releasing those stem cells into the system, and the best form of stem cells to use are your stem cells. That make sense?
Sure, that makes sense, yes.
Okay. Now, as for what they will fix, I am not going to get into any disease claims whatsoever because I really don't want to argue with the FDA about this. The one problem with the call today is it's happening about a week too early. Had we been doing this next Friday, I would be able to send all of the listeners to a website where you're going to be able to download a totally free stem cell report that we're actually just finalizing right now. But it is going to lay out in layman's terms exactly what stem cells are, how they can be used, how easy they are to actually release from your own body, and they will also list a wide range of conditions that they're already being researched for and used for. So if Vincent cares to have me back on at some stage in the near future, I'll be able to direct all of the listeners to a very simple booklet. It's only going to run about 12 or 14 pages, but you can actually read it. If you really want to get into it, you can go through and have a look at all the references that we're citing in the book as well. But, you know, stem cell nutrition has two advantages over stem cell therapy. Advantage number one is it is a heck of a lot less expensive to spend $60 or $70 a month to generate billions of more stem cells within your own body than what it is to go to a stem therapy clinic and pay anywhere from $7,000 to $20,000 to $30,000 to $40,000 to $50,000 to have your own stem cells re-injected back into specific parts of your body. That makes sense?
Yes, sir. Dan, please don't get me wrong. I was not in any way attacking your anything that you were saying.
That's fine.
Yeah, I was really just asking if you knew of anybody that has in these stem cell producing labs that are actually, if you knew any, because you sound like a lot more knowledgeable than I am in it, if there actually, has there been any breakthroughs where they can actually say, yes, there is a viable stem cell that we're injecting into you?
The short answer to that is yes. Some of the clinics are doing an awful lot of research, and they are, quite frankly, some of the clinics are getting great results, particularly the American clinics that are at least subject to some sort of regulatory oversight. A lot of the international clinics, unfortunately, are in countries where they can say whatever they like, charge whatever they like, do whatever they like, and there is no regulatory oversight whatsoever. The main point I want to make is that whatever you can do with stem cell therapy, you can also do with stem cell nutrition. It may take longer, but it's certainly just as effective. And it's a heck of a lot less costly.
Okay. That's all I had. I wanted to thank you, Vince, for calling the other day. I'm sorry I missed your phone call. Anyway, I just wanted to thank you for all your help through this time. But anyway,
Kyle,
I'll hang up and let him go.
I love
Vincent,
chatting with you. And yes,
Vincent, feel free to give Craig my phone number or my email address. I'd love to talk to him offline.
Yeah, it's Kyle. His name is Kyle, and he's in Montana. He's a USA Preparedness instructor. I will certainly do that. Kyle, if you're still with us, I just wanted to tell you that I'm looking at an article on the Internet, and it says, Stan isn't saying this, I'm saying that I'm reading this article, and it says that there is evaluation going on in treatments of these following diseases using stem cells: leukemia, multiple myeloma, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, stroke, spinal cord injury, induced intestinal injury, inflammatory bowel disease, liver disease, muscular dystrophy, diabetes, heart disease, bone disease, renal disease, chronic wounds, and graft versus host disease, sepsis, and respiratory diseases. That's what the article says that we're looking into using stem cells to treat those diseases.
Well, Vincent, here's a few others. Cancer, leukemia, autoimmune disease, including diabetes, lupus, Crohn's disease, and arthritis, cardiovascular disease, including acute heart damage and chronic coronary artery disease, corneal regeneration, Parkinson's, stroke, anemia, and other blood conditions, liver and blood disease. That's just a partial list. And these are different conditions that they have actually started actively researching, and they are getting results from. There is an awful lot of work going on with adult stem cells right now, and it's going to accelerate. You know, they basically have discovered that stem cells are the master cell for the body. Yeah, we're going to be hearing a lot more about this in the years to come.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm extremely interested in this work, and I'm extremely interested in. And you mentioned, if I would have you back. Are you kidding? I'm delighted to be broadcasting with you, Stan. Kyle, any other thoughts that you'd like to share?
Nope. Just appreciate the show, Vince. Always, it's like a welcome cup of coffee in the morning. I love it. Thanks.
And Kyle, if there's anything that the Finelli family can do for you or any of our instructors, just let me know, and we will make it happen.
Thank you, sir. You have been there, Vince, and you're, like I said a long time ago, like a brother from another mother. So I appreciate you very much, you and your wife. She's excellent too, just amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was Kyle in Montana, and Stan, I just want to mention something that you probably might have been able to read between the lines. USA Prepares is a little different from most broadcasts, and the faculty of USA Prepares, we're all a bunch of volunteers, and we are looking to help each other. We see that as one of our purposes in life, instructor to instructor, but it's not limited to that. So when people who are in our class need advice, counsel, we're here. And all you have to do, class, is if you need one of us to call you, I will do my best to make that happen. So if you need any one of our instructors, all you have to do is send me an email at instructor@usaprepares.com. Instructor@usaprepares.com. So if you want Stan Haley to contact you, let me know. Let me know, and I'll do my best to make that happen. So that's kind of who we are. Stand back
and
to you.
That is one of the main reasons I am so happy to actually now be part of this one big family.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. And the one interesting component is there's no written agreement. There's no contract. It's just, with all of our instructors, as when you and I were meeting for the first time on the phone, I just said it's a loose organization of volunteers who just want to contribute, who want to help, who want to volunteer, who want to donate their time to the greater cause. And, okay, we've got David in Illinois. David, welcome. You're on with Stan Haley.
Yes, I have a friend that has been pretty much at his end with his eye surgeries. I mean, he was pretty much exhausted his chances of seeing. And he just now, he got the option to do this. Now they're doing stem cells in the eye. And they said if it takes, it's going to be very, a very favorable, for him.
Well, David, we're going into a commercial break. We're going into the last segment of this hour of USA Prepares with Stan Haley. Would you like to hold and get your question answered?
Sure.
Okay. All right. David's got to hold. Stan Haley's with us. I'm Vin Finelli. We'll be right back. Stan Haley's with us, and David in Illinois is with us. And by the way, class, very quickly, I posted on page 1 of USA Prepares another link to contact Stan Haley's greenwoodhealth.net. So if you'd like to do that, you can go to USA Prepares, USAPREPARES.com. Page number 1, one of the top stories is the link to Stan Haley. David, please continue.
Yeah, he was pretty much exhausted with any future eye surgeries for him to be able to see. And they popped up with this new treatment with stem cells, and they said if it takes, it's going to be very promising for him. And so many people that you see, you come across, they simply think, well, we could just give you an eye transplant, and that's just not the case, So I am holding out for the stem cell treatment. I think that's going to be the future treatment for, eye conditions. And I hope I'm right by thinking that.
David, we're only just starting to scratch the surface of what stem cells are going to be able to be used to do. I'm certainly not going to say that I've got a product that will fix all problems, because it won't. That's the simple answer. But what I will tell everybody is that the more of your adult stem cells that you can release into your system, the better off you're going to be. Because the cold hard fact of the matter is that by age 60, you have less than 10% of the number of circulating adult stem cells you had as a child. Now, anything that you can do to up that level has to be beneficial. And what we do know is the ingredients that we're using in our product have been clinically shown to dramatically increase the number of adult stem cells. So, in simple English, if you are age 60 and you can take a product that will boost the number of stem cells back to the level you had at age 30 or 35, how much better off are you going to be?
So that's the other question I was going to ask you. So there is a product that's out there that is basically a stem cell booster or supplement that can be taken and ordered without medical supervision?
Bingo. However, that product, like all other nutritional products, is not designed to cure, treat, prevent any disease whatsoever. We make no claims at all that our product will fix anything. However, there's an awful lot of science out there that you can read between the lines with.
Yeah, correct. I understand it. It's not going to be a guarantee. It can do anything, but it could, help. All it can do is help and improve.
Yep, and the one thing I'd like to make very, very clear to all the listeners is do not expect any product you take to fix whatever problem you're trying to fix within 2 weeks. If you're 60 years of age, you've had 60 years to totally screw up your body. Nothing is going to change that in a couple of weeks. What you need to commit to do is to actually use whatever product you choose for at least 90 days, because everything works slowly when you're repairing bits and pieces. That make sense? Yes. I mean, we changed our medical treatment drastically with a year and a half ago, and just since this October of changing these ways and going back to the ways we used to, I put on 50 pounds of muscle since then. And the doctors are shocked. The new doctors are just surprised and shocked. Well done. But, we don't have the time today to get into this subject in detail. And we certainly don't have the time today to get into the fact that if you are using adaptogenic products with stem cell nutrition products, there's a synergistic effect between the two of them.
Thank you very much.
You are more than welcome.
David,
Thanks for the question.
Yeah, thank you for being with us, David. And Stan Haley, I know why we have the retirement age of 65, because parts start falling off at 66.
No, in my case, parts start falling off at about 45.
Well, yeah, and you're giving us a plan to repair. And I love it. I really love it. So I'm looking forward to being back on the air with you for the next part of this stem cell broadcast, where we get more into detail. Stan Haley, greenwoodhealth.net. Link on the website. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Class, what you're about to hear may be quite disturbing. You may want to leave this broadcast for today, the rest of today, for the next hour. There are no talking points for this hour number 2. What you're about to hear is what a off-air telephone call is like between Joey in Michigan and me. You're going to be able to hear what it sounds like as if you were eavesdropping on one of our phone calls. Again, there are no talking points, and I think what you're going to hear is going to be quite disturbing. Welcome, Joey.
Vince, thank you. Appreciate it. You know, it was really refreshing to talk to you and Rick yesterday on the show. Just brought back a lot of good memories. And you're right, we'll cover a variety of thoughts, I guess we'll put it. I'd like to leave the class with this thought, just to think about. I would encourage everyone to consider what's most important to them today, whatever they consider to be important in a great time of abundance. Seems like everybody has an abundance. They throw away food. They throw away everything. And then I want them to consider if there was an economic collapse, if there was any kind of a weather-type collapse, the ice age Rick's always talking about, how different would your priorities become? And what will encourage you to start thinking a little bit how different your life would be without all the abundances you have today? Because as the dollar starts to collapse with the amount of debt we've created, eventually the inflation has to kick in. Just listening to your commercial waiting to come on, they're talking about they're going to close a car plant in Ohio because nobody's buying that car, but they make it in Mexico. So we don't need to feed a stupid American person. We'll go to Mexico. But then there might be a tariff on the car coming back from Mexico, so now we don't know. So that's just a thought. I want that to spin around on a little plate on a dish. But, you know, we'll talk about what I've noticed, what you've noticed about, what do you want to call it? The temperature, the temperament of the people. You know, I go on Craigslist a lot, and I used to meet some really cool people on Craigslist. But lately I call something simple to buy a pickup truck. Oh, no, it's a Virgin, it's this, it's that, it's from Texas, it's got no rust. Oh, you can't find a speck of rust on it. I've looked at over 15 trucks in the last 3 months, and every one of them, it's been nothing but lies, deceit. And I mean, I guess apparently they think nobody can see the damage, the poor quality. And if a man's going to lie to you about a vehicle that you can see, what's he going to lie about to you? The stuff that he knows is wrong with it that's hidden, whether it's a transmission, motor, a part that needs to be replaced, or all of the above. You noticing that in your neck of the woods?
Oh, I called a couple of weeks ago about there was a Mercedes that was very inexpensive, and it was in Arkansas. So I called this guy up, and I said, so can you tell me about the car? And he started telling me about it, and I said, so tell me about it. Does it have any rust? No. Okay, so it's going to take me several hours to get there. So when I get there, I'm not going to find any rust. Oh, I'm not saying you're not going to find any rust. The guy's yelling at me now, whereas 30 seconds prior, he told me there's no rust. Now he's yelling at me because I asked him the same question slightly differently. And that's the kind of, you're talking about lies? Is that an example? Absolutely. Absolutely. I had another guy that we called for one of our neighbors who needed a transmission in a Ford. And so I was on the phone with this guy, and I said, so, can you tell me about it? And he said, well, the vehicle, you can take the transmission out. I said, okay, so it's got wheels on it? No, doesn't have front wheels on it. Said back wheels on it? Yeah, well, my son went to go look at it. There's no back wheels on this thing. And the guy was yelling at me because I said, well, it kind of sounds like if you've cut this thing apart and there's no bed box on it and the hood is shot and the door is gone and the interior's missing, sounds like we should turn this thing over and take the transmission out. And he started screaming at me, and then he hung up. What I'm saying is, people are liars, they're more rude, and it's not just Craigslist. What we're seeing is what I would call claim jumping. Now, in Missouri, back in the 1840s, there were a lot of claim jumpers. And what that means is you would stake out the land that you wanted, and the next day you would make a claim, and overnight someone would claim your land and move you off it. So we've got a history of claim jumpers in Missouri, and they've bred very well. They're still here. Well, so what's happening with farms is we are in dire straits. And I've mentioned this, and I guess we're going to talk about the food supply a little bit later in this hour. So the farmers, like us, will work with other farmers who can't cut their hay. There's not much of it. So what we'll do is, for years we've had agreements, and 50-50. So we cut their hay, they get half, we do all the work, the fuel, the machinery, that's on us, and we split it 50-50. Well, now there are other farmers coming in trying to jump the existing relationship we have already established, saying, we'll do that to push us out of the way. That's what's happening now. It's now every man and woman for him or herself. That's what we're seeing. That's what you're saying.
The picture that you're painting, again, we're in full abundance, right? Everybody's 20 pounds overweight. There's no shortage of food. You can buy any kind of GMO toxic surplus sewage that Walmart and all the big box stores sell. There's no shortage. You can go to McDonald's and buy a throwaway hamburger for $1. I mean, you can buy whatever poison you want for whatever price you want to pay, and you still have money. And the people are now starting to unravel. So I used to give society, humanity, a lot more credit. Apparently that was a ginormous, huge mistake. Because in reality, no. There is no anything. And you're right, every man for himself. So how's this going to end? How is this going to end when you wake up, gas is $8 a gallon, or food, if there is any, because it dried up. It either got rained on, the roots molded because it was too wet and cold when they put the seed in. They replanted twice, and they just can't afford it because the season was shortened. How's this going to end? Crazy people. I mean, they're all nuts. They all lie. And, a guy selling the truck, I will assume he's selling that because he wants to, because he needs the money. So he needs, and because he looked on eBay or Craigslist, well, that's what they're getting for him. Well, I bought something on Craigslist or on eBay. They advertised it for like $2,500. I'll make an offer. I made him an offer of $1,000. It was kind of a joke. And the guy responded back, great, I'll take it. So eBay recorded that as a $2,500 sale. That's what they put it out to the public for. So now the rest of the sheeple are like, oh, that was $2,500. Mine's worth $2,500, and really it was $1,000. So how do you explain that little bit of a tidbit?
Okay.
You there?
Yeah, I am. And what comes to mind is this quote from an American philosopher. His name was George Carlin. Some people might have said, well, he was a comedian. And his quote is this: think of how stupid the average person is, and realize that half of them are stupider than that.
Yeah, and that half are the ones that run our government.
Yes.
That's where the scary part comes. And, I have to tell you, I always look forward. I was the guy, if there was a mushroom cloud, I wanted to be the cockroach and the mouse or the cockroach, Twinkie, and me. That's what was going to survive that blast. Today, it's going to be hard enough to survive an economic collapse. It's going to be hard to deal with a bunch of mindless, simple people. I got tasked. I go to Walmart every couple months to recharge a phone. I buy a service there called Straight Talk. And I got passed in the parking lot trying to come out. The guy, apparently I wasn't going fast enough, so he cuts me off so he could get in front of me at the stop sign, and he pulls out in front of the next guy, cuts him off so he could get behind the next guy at the red light. And then the red light took two red lights. He used to figure out how to get over the curb to get around the corner. I don't know. You'd think if he was going to soil himself, he'd have stayed in the store and used their facilities. But instead, no. And you see this day after day after day. I would encourage everybody to carry a can of wasp and hornet spray in their car, because you never know when there's an underground beehive or one hanging in a tree, and it will do great wonders for a bee. If you spray a bee in the air at 25 feet, it'll hit the ground. So might want to consider keeping one of them in the car in case you get a wasp nest or a hornet's nest dropped on you, not knowing. And we'll leave it at that for that story.
Class, I know you know that during this hour you're going to have to read between the lines. I know that. And you know
if
that.
If they can't figure that one out, they really shouldn't be listening. You know, I was thinking it's over 6 years since I met you at First Expo. And I was thinking about all the people we met. And I mean, there's hundreds of people. And we keep in contact with a lot of them. Some of them passed away. Some of them they disappeared. They went behind the invisible cloak, all of the above. But the one thing I've noticed, how many pleas you've made. When we'd be on the show before, we'd ask people to call in. Guy was going to help you make an iron Edison battery somewhere in your neck of the woods. He was an engineer, and then poof, he's gone. And
John.
all these people, they're like Houdini. They all disappear.
Yeah, like the guy who was going to help me with my track loader, my bulldozer, if you will. He's going to help me.
I was going to ask you about welding the cleats on, yep.
Yeah, no, he's disappeared. He's disappeared. Like all these people. Yeah, we're in it with you, Vinny. Yeah, we're there. Gone. Well, except for, Norm Shealy, Ricky Rocket, and you and a few others, Kyle. We'll be right back. Joey in Michigan's with us. In class, I have been ringing the alarm for about 7 years on the radio. And I've been ringing the alarm lately about the farm crisis that we're seeing here with the weather in Missouri. Had a meeting this morning with our family, and we are picking which cows are going to market next. We have to sell a great portion of our herd because we cannot feed them. And it's not just us. It really isn't just us. And this has happened before. But when was it this bad? Well, in 1315, it was called the Great Famine of 1315. And let me just read this from Wikipedia. You can read it yourself. I'll put it on the website. The Great Famine of 1315 to 1317 was the first of a series of large-scale crises that struck Europe in the early 14th century. Most of Europe, extending east to Russia and south to Italy, was affected. The famine caused millions of deaths over an extended number of years and marked a clear end to the period of growth and prosperity from the 11th to the 13th century. The Great Famine started with bad weather in the spring of 1315. Crop failures lasted through 1316 until the summer of 1317, and Europe did not fully recover until 1322. The period was marked by extreme levels of crime, disease, mass death, even cannibalism and infanticide, killing children. Goes on to say that families were familiar with the occurrences. I'm sorry. Let me go right to here. Let's talk about the life expectancy. According to official records about the English royal family, an example of the best off in society for whom records were kept, the average life expectancy in 1276 was 35 years. Between 1301 and 1325 during the Great Famine, it was 30 years. Between 1348 and 1379 during the plague, it was only 17 years. 17 years. Life expectancy. What we're talking about is, can it happen again? I am seeing some reports on the internet that say things like, we're in really serious trouble. We're having massive crop failures. Joey, would you like to tell us about the massive crop failures?
Well, just even in my area. Normally, all the corn's planted by the first, never later than the second week of June. I seen a guy replanting the field at the middle to end of the third week. I don't know what he's planting for. I mean, I usually do everything on a gut feeling. And, Rick's class on working with your intuition, getting your gut to work for you. I have the strongest sensations that we're going to have coldness like we haven't had. I mean, if that's my biggest worry. I want to, before we get to the food part, I want to put an SOS out everybody that's listening, that cares, that has a brain, that can think. I don't like to be rude about it, but I have to be blunt about it, because we're dealing with a lot of simple people. There's a lot of people. You had a guy call in a couple weeks ago. He's so nervous. He's talking about his dad burning the blue powder or made blue smoke. He was great. It took a lot of courage for him to come out. He didn't want to speak. But there's people out here that know how. They know, and we have an avenue. You are hosting an avenue to bring people together. You know, whether they want to share it, that's going to be up to them. But, you know, how to build a battery, how to do stuff, whether it's making a biofuel, whether it's making alcohol that you can drink, medicinal tinctures. I mean, everybody, it's easy to say, oh, yeah, I'll go to the store. Well, someday the store is going to be there. I mean, you want a quick class in reality, go see what's happening in Venezuela and Brazil right now. If you don't want to believe that, get a history book out. Read about China. Read about when Stalin took over. Read about when they were eating children in the Ukraine. Read about that stuff. Go see what happened in Germany after the war. What's that called? Hellstorm? There's another one. Watch those videos. See what's going to happen.
Yeah. We're going to start talking about food in a little bit when we come back. Joey in Michigan. And I mentioned that you may not want to listen to this broadcast. We'll be right back. Joey's with us. And we're talking about things that we can see, hear, feel, and we're sharing those with you. Joey, what's next?
Now, let's talk about your food. Let's talk about, what do you do with food? What's the most efficient way, if you have an abundance today, how do you store food? I mean, do you freeze it? Do you can it? Do you dry it? Do you freeze dry it? I mean, what are the benefits? What are the pros? What are the cons? I mean, I'd like to freeze dry, but I would like to know if there's anybody out there. This would be the most extreme SOS. Who's built the freeze dryer, and how would they like to help the rest of us figure out how to build one? Because coming into these weather patterns that seem to be, they're coming, whether you like them or not. What does Rick call it, the solar minimum? You know, as those come, you may have an abundance of food this year and not next year. And the freeze drying will store it the longest. Canning's great. Can's great. I canned 60 pounds of beef one year just to learn how to do it. But when the power goes out and those jars freeze, well, guess what? I got 60 pounds of broken glass. So how do you store food? You're going to dehydrate it? You're going to can it? You're going to, what do you do with it? So you have food. You can't just have food for today and starve tomorrow. What do you think about that? How have you been dealing with that thought?
Well, Joey, you know that we've been canning, and we've recommended to those who will listen that if they buy spaghetti sauce, they can probably get one more use out of those spaghetti sauce jars. They can from their gardens. We recommend that they experiment with it, like right now, and learn how to do it. It's not something that, if it ever gets bad, we'll learn how to do it. No. I got to tell you, I've read books on it. I've talked to Sharon on the air about it. And for her, it's very, very simple because she's done it over and over and over and over. Okay? And if you haven't done it, it's something that you can't do it well without doing it to learn how to do it. So that's what we're doing. We're canning. And about freeze drying, that's a real tough one because I think I can make a freeze dryer, but what I can't do is I can't make an automated freeze dryer because, frankly, I don't know if I have it in me to write the program to program the relays to cycle on and off based on temperature and time to heat, cool, vacuum pump the chamber. I don't know if I have the ability to do it right now. Not only don't I know that, I don't know if I have the time to do it.
You don't have the time. That's the key right there, is the time, because you're just trying to keep your head above water with all the craziness that's thrown upon you. Then you see what's coming, and you got to pick, things I think about. If the power's out, you need some kind of a toilet. You need an outhouse. You need something because you can't fill garbage bags. You can't fill your toilet. What are you going to do? How are you going to get rid of it? You need a toilet. You need a heat source. You know, if the grid goes down and you have no power because you get a heavy rain, a heavy snow, that's not assuming a solar flare. That's a whole different animal. You know, when Rick and Matt Stein talk about that, wow, that's a whole different animal. We're just talking about everyday basic conveniences you take for granted. That's a life and death, game-changing scenario when that happens. You know, the biggest problem, what are the 5 diseases like dysentery, cholera? Those are all based on a human person is the only being that can't stand in its own waste without getting sick. All the animals, dogs, farm animals, yeah, it's not a problem. Apparently, we have a DNA issue, and it's been designed that way, and that's a great way to clean house. So, you know, when you think about these people in charge, what are they planning on? But if you don't have a way to store food, and you better think about freeways, and you're right, you need that memory. I mean, I was fortunate that the internet was up. I could watch a video how somebody canned meat, how to use the pressure canner I bought. That was wonderful. That was phenomenal. And, you know, I did it last year, and I remember stuff, but that's something I did it for a couple of weeks, and then I put it away. And you have to do it. Like Sharon, when she shared some of her recipes, it was great, but they've been doing it for 30 years. You know, I don't bake bread. I don't really eat a lot of bread. I didn't know if you buy oatmeal, rolled oats, if you put it in a Mylar bag, it has a 17-month shelf life in a Mylar bag with no oxygen. But if you buy an oat groat, that's the oat before they rolled it. You know, Miles talked about that. You buy a little roller, you roll them fresh. The oils, the minerals are still in it. But an oat groat, you can store it for 25 years in a Mylar bag. And you zip it open, have rolled oats. You know, when you buy the guy with a hat, Quaker Oat, that's owned by Kellogg's and Monsanto, and it all feeds through that whole cycle of nonsense. You know, they tend to grow oats where they plant corn last year. That way you're getting the glyphosates in your oatmeal. Beautiful. I mean, they thought of it all. So how do you think outside of the box? What will take and change your thought pattern? Is it going to be waking up with no running water? Is it going to be when you go to the bank and your money has no value? If there is a bank, what's going to change? What is that eye-opener going to be? And, man, I'm going to tell you, it's a lot easier to start rubbing the little crunchies out of the center of your eyes as you wake up now while you still have the time to practice. Buy meat on sale that you don't even want to eat. Try practicing canning meat you don't even want to eat. See how it works. Buy vegetable clearances and just can those. You don't even have to have a garden. Just so you get the concept. You get a little muscle memory in your brain. You start to create a pattern. Try that, see what that'll do. Your guy on yesterday talking about the Kydex water filters. I too have 3 of those. I keep one in my vehicle at all times because it's supposedly good for up to 10,000 gallons of water. And it's not very big, and it's pricey. But without water, and if you're stranded somewhere, that might be the only thing. I mean, you could go 30 days without food. I could probably go 60. I don't want to, but that you need a good water filter. Those are things nobody thinks about. What can you say about that?
Well, as you're saying it, what have I done? Well, I've bought ProPure water filtration systems. I bought the extra filters. I only use one at a time. When someone buys one from USA Prepares, if they go to the website, we send them an extra plug, and we talk to them. We tell them that you don't have to put 2 filters in. You can use one, and that way you'll have an extra filter. It takes longer for the water to filter, but you'll have those extra filters. Wrap them in plastic wrap like Saran wrap. Keep the air out of them, and the filters will last longer, in storage. So yeah, we have those, okay, and we have a spare well pump, and we have a spring, and we have ponds. That's why we live here. That's why we live on this farm. But there's so many people that think everything is great. If you go to the city, it's hot. It's really, really hot. And people race from the building where they work to their car. They try to get the air conditioning on, so the air conditioning's on. But if anything goes wrong with their air conditioner, they can overheat and die in their car if they get stuck in traffic, right? Do they have water with them? Do they have water in the trunk? In case they get stuck in traffic? Did they check the oil to keep the engine running a little cooler? Did they check the tire pressure to make sure that there's less likelihood of a blowout when these roads are so hot you can't touch them? Am I exaggerating? No. The roads are so hot you can't touch them. And it's rough on the tires. It causes a greater possibility of a blowout when the tires are hot.
Most of these people only keep the bottom half of their fuel tank full. Instead of filling it up, when they get to a half a tank refill, they when it's half full and it gets to empty, that's when they put the fuel back in. You know, it's amazing how dumbed down and how lazy we as a society have got. You know, and...
All right, let's talk about the fuel for just a second. Class, really simple point. The fuel in your tank is the coolant for your fuel pump, because a lot of fuel pumps are in the fuel tank. And if you get down to the, 1/4 of a tank, you have less fuel to cool the electric fuel pump in your fuel tank. It causes the fuel pumps to wear out faster. Now, no big deal. All you have to do is put the car up on the lift, drain the fuel tank, take the fuel pump out, replace fuel pump. $700 later, you're good to go if you can get that fuel pump. In the meantime, you've been stranded because the fuel pump failed. No problem. All you have to do is call a tow truck. A couple $100 later, you're at the dealership and at their mercy. You could prevent a lot of that by keeping your tank above a half a tank of fuel. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. Back to you.
You know, it's nice to have an extra half a tank of fuel when you can't be near a station. You know, nobody's thinking outside of the box. And I'm really fortunate. I see everything when I look. You know, some people look at a wall, they see a light switch, a screw on the plate around the light switch. But it's nice to see the whole picture. And I'm not saying that I'm prepared for it, but at least I'm aware of it. And I'm more and more. And the sad part is, all those people, like we were talking about in the beginning, they were all your friends. They came around. You can rest be assured when the lights go out, everybody wants to be your friend. Everybody will be there. And it's like, they're going to tell you when they went on their vacation and dropped $8,000 or $10,000 to take the family down to see the mouse, Mr. Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse. That's going to be a great story. And they're going to be starving. And I'm not telling you not to go take your family on a vacation, but maybe don't go for 10 days. Go for 5 and take the other 5 days worth of money and think a little bit different. Practice, I met an old guy. What a neat guy. He's got a coal-burning wood stove in his house, and he's got one outside with a roof over it. I says, and a chimney. I said, what's that for? He says, well, that's the summer kitchen. I says, the summer kitchen? He says, well, you can't light that stove up in the house. And grew up as a kid, his family did that. And that's what all the old plantation houses had, a summer kitchen. So if that stove caught on fire, it didn't burn the house down as well. They cooked out in a separate building. Whoever thinks about that? Surely not I, until the guy told me the story.
Yep. I've got my grandmother's kitchen wood stove right on our concrete veranda. Our neighbor has one just like it out on his. We'll be right back. Joey in Michigan's with us. Joey, we moved the family from the East Coast to Missouri because I thought bad times were coming. I think we're here. And let me give you just an example. There's a link that you sent me this morning about, came from Russia Today, RT.com. Nuclear watchdog warns of radioactive leak at South Carolina fuel factory. He sent me also a link, a YouTube video link. If it's okay with you, I'll put them on the website, USA Prepares, after the broadcast concludes. Here it is. Radioactive uranium has leaked through a 3-inch hole in the floor at a nuclear fuel factory in South Carolina, contaminating the soil below the plant. The U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission says. According to the commission, the holes go 6 feet down into the soil below the Westinghouse factory's concrete floor. While the commission cannot yet say whether the toxic substance has leaked into the area's groundwater, agency records show that the soil beneath the plant contains 1,300 times the amount of uranium typically found in soil. Now, the officials the State Department of Health and Environmental Control Efficiency say the leak does not pose a threat to local water supplies. But activists are concerned that the Congaree National Park, a vast wetland just several miles from the plant, may be contaminated. Now, Joey, do you have a comment before I say any more?
Well, that was by Dabu77, and I want to just throw these out here. There's ADAPT 2030. He's very big on the weather changes, the solar minimum coming. He's had great detail on the crop failures around the world. Another guy is called the Ice Farmer, and I stumbled upon him. He, too, is promoting the drought that's going through Germany. I talked to Miles a couple weeks ago, and he told me the German government is now commandeering all unfarmed land and making it mandatory for extra plantings because they're having such a shortage. And the third guy, or the fourth guy I'm going to promote, is a guy called Richie from Boston. He's more or less explaining how the antennas, the towers, the copyrights on TV screens, and all that going. And I got to throw that out there because we'll get to the end of the show, and I want people to do this. And you don't have to do anything. Just sit back, take the ride, take the red pill, the purple pill, but don't be mad at anybody when you wake up and you're hungry, or you're cold, or you've got tears in your eyes because you're watching a family member starve before your eyes, or whatever's going to happen. Don't pay attention to, some goofy thing like RT talking about a nuclear leak that all the media companies in our country can't speak about it. We have to have RT speak about it, and they're our enemies, supposedly. So that's what I would say about it. Go ahead, Vince.
Joey, I've connected a dot, and sometimes I do some of my best thinking in the shower. The high pressure, low volume, it goes, kind of that white noise. And I was thinking about this today, and I connected a dot. And here it is. So we've got the drought, we've got the crop failures, and it's serious. So we get this 16-page agricultural census. And what does that have to do with anything? Well, here's what they want to know. How many tractors, above and below certain horsepowers, what we're going to plant, whether we irrigate, who are the decision makers, and on each farm, the names of the decision makers, who makes what decisions. What I'm telling you, class, is the USDA agricultural census will tell them who is not worthy of saving. Okay? They need the decision makers. They want the decision makers. They want to be able to know who's got what equipment, how much fuel, what kind of seeds, what kind of plants, what kind of animals, what kind of tractors, what kind of farm, how many acres can be farmed, who's doing what, where it's located. So they have the ability to, at their fingertips, at the click of a mouse, click in, who's got it, where is it, let's go get it. And don't kill that guy because that guy is critical. He's the decision maker. The rest of them, we don't need them. Joey, your thoughts?
Your government at work for you. They're your friends. They'll always help you, right?
Yeah. Do you think I've lost my mind, or do you think that those dots I connected are?
You see the same mirage I see when I connect the dots. The picture's always the same.
Joey, you got to come back again and again. Can you do that? We'll work out a schedule. Yeah.
We'll talk later. Be safe.
You too.
I hope people wake up.
And right now. Not now. Right now.